Nestled between rolling hills and vibrant trees, the community of Maplewood Springs was a suburban paradise. The homes, each painted in warm tones of beige, blue, and green, lined the streets like old friends catching up after a long separation. Neighbors waved as they walked their dogs or trimmed their flower beds, creating an undeniable sense of camaraderie that permeated the air. Children played freely in front yards, laughter ringing out like joyous church bells echoing through the calm afternoon. At the heart of Maplewood Springs resided the Homeowners Association, HOA, a governing body meant to uphold the standards and harmony of this idyllic neighborhood. Formed with noble intentions, the HOA enforced rules that kept properties pristine and ensured a peaceful coexistence among residents. It organized events such as summer barbecues and holiday parties where neighbors could bond over grilled ribs and homemade pies. However, beneath this seemingly perfect surface lay a veneer that would soon be tested. While most residents appreciated the HOA's efforts to maintain order, there were murmurs of discontent about its more zealous members. Some felt that authority had grown too controlling, with certain individuals enforcing petty rules that stifled personal expression. Little did they know how quickly this tension would escalate into chaos when self-proclaimed officers began to pop up, individuals who believed they could assume power without any legitimacy. It started innocently enough, an unfamiliar face at a neighborhood watch meeting, stepping forward to lecture everyone about proper lawn care practices. At first, residents exchanged glances filled with mild confusion. Was this person truly an officer? After all, no one had voted for them. Yet there was something unsettling about their assertive tone and demands for compliance. Gradually, residents learned to view these imposters as mere nuisances until they crossed an unforgivable line. The sun dipped below the horizon one fateful evening when tragedy struck. A group of these fake officers roamed the area like wolves disguised in sheep's clothing, undeterred by any semblance of authority or virtue. They targeted specific homes where rules had previously been bent but never broken, as if hoping to instill fear in those who dared to defy them. As darkness enveloped the neighborhood, windows shattered under their reckless assault, leaving behind shards of glass and heightened anxiety. The aftermath was devastating. Whispers echoed down every street as residents gathered to assess the damage and support one another in their newfound uncertainty. Fear cast its shadow over Maplewood Springs. A community once rich with laughter turned into one haunted by distrust and vulnerability. House boundaries that once seemed inviolable now felt frail against threats lurking in plain sight. Yet amidst this growing gloom lived a neighbor known only as the Sniper. His eccentricities had earned him both awe and apprehension. Stories circulated about his incredible accuracy and protective nature toward his home, but little else was known about him personally. As whispers turned into nervous conversations during evening strolls, hope flickered at the thought that perhaps this recluse would rise up alongside them. Maybe he wouldn't stand idly by while their sanctuary crumbled beneath intimidation. As tensions mounted and anxiety reached its peak throughout Maplewood Springs, one question began circling in everyone's minds. Could a single brave soul turn back the tide against entrenched fear? As the sun rose on Maplewood Springs, a sense of unease lingered in the air, casting shadows over the once vibrant community. The sudden emergence of individuals impersonating HOA officers sent ripples of confusion and anxiety through the neighborhood. It began with a few bold characters showing up unannounced at neighborhood gatherings, exuding an air of authority that both intrigued and unsettled the residents. Clad in dark blazers adorned with faux HOA badges, they spoke with confidence, addressing rules and regulations that no one had ever heard of before. At first glance, these imposters seemed harmless, even amusing to some. Neighbors chuckled nervously at their exaggerated claims of power and their overly meticulous approach to maintaining property values. "Who do they think they are?" whispered one resident as she watched a pair of them lecture a group of children about keeping their bikes off the sidewalks. Yet behind their smiles lay an insidious agenda fueled by a desire for control and dominance. As days turned into weeks, the imposters grew bolder, pushing boundaries that were never meant to be tested. They created fake flyers listing new restrictions, everything from mandatory lawn color schemes to prohibitions against garden gnomes. Some residents fell prey to their antics, nervously questioning whether they were supposed to comply. Others began to voice their skepticism, but that only seemed to embolden the fake officers further. What truly sent chills down the spines of homeowners was when these impersonators began conducting inspections. They roamed the streets like self-appointed enforcers, scrutinizing properties with an eagle eye for perceived infractions. It was during one of these so-called inspections that a line was crossed. Tensions soared after they confronted a family about their colorful flower beds, deeming them an eyesore that would lower property values. The family felt humiliated, their laughter quickly replaced by disbelief and anger. The fear spread like wildfire through Maplewood Springs. Residents who had once enjoyed casual chats over picket fences now exchanged worried glances instead. "What if they come after us next?" became a common refrain at neighborhood gatherings. The community's original charm faded as mistrust seeped into daily interactions. People hesitated to express dissent, fearing repercussions from these self-proclaimed enforcers who thrived on intimidation. Behind closed doors, whispers circulated about the motivations of these fake officers. Some speculated they sought to establish a power base within the community, creating chaos that would allow them to impose their will unchecked. Others believed it was nothing more than a cruel game, one where the stakes seemed all too real for those caught in the crossfire. As tensions heightened, residents felt trapped in a nightmare with no clear resolution in sight. They longed for a return to normalcy, but couldn't shake the feeling that they were living under an oppressive regime, one that operated right under their noses while masquerading as community guardians. In this climate of fear and uncertainty, however, one truth remained clear: Maplewood Springs could not remain hostage to these imposters forever. As frustration brewed among neighbors who had once stood together in solidarity, the stage was set for change, though none could yet predict how or when it would come. Hope flickered dimly in hearts heavy with dread, and somewhere in the shadows lurked an unexpected ally who would soon reveal himself as their greatest defender. One fateful Friday evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, the tension that had been brewing in Maplewood Springs reached a critical point. It started quietly, a glass-shattering sound echoing through the neighborhood, followed by shouts that pierced the stillness. In mere moments, it became clear that this would not be an ordinary night. The first victim was the Johnsons, a family who had recently hosted a lively barbecue, their laughter a reminder of happier times. As dinner settled and shadows lengthened, they noticed several figures lurking outside their home, those same imposters who had been harassing residents just days before. What began as whispers of intimidation escalated into tangible hostility when one of them hurled rocks at their front windows. The impact shattered not just glass but also any lingering sense of security. Startled and horrified, Mrs. Johnson's heart raced as she rushed to her children, who huddled together wide-eyed in the living room. "Mommy, what's happening?" they cried. She squeezed their hands tight, fighting back tears that threatened to fall. The sound of breaking glass became a cacophony of anxiety as neighbors peered from behind curtains, hearts pounding in sync with the chaos. Within moments, a chain reaction ignited. Windows cracked and splintered across Maplewood Springs as these fake officers unleashed their fury indiscriminately. One by one, homes that stood proudly just hours before became battlegrounds. Windows shattered like dreams underfoot. With each loud bang of glass hitting concrete came another wave of dread rolling over the community, washing away what little comfort remained. Fear swept through the peaceful streets like wildfire. Those who had once exchanged friendly smiles now found themselves trembling at the thought of being targeted next. "They can't do this," shouted Mr. Thompson from down the street as he emerged onto his porch. His clenched fists reflected both rage and helplessness. He felt stripped of control within his own home. As darkness enveloped Maplewood Springs, its residents gathered outside cautiously. They were united in disbelief over their violated sanctuary. Homes were not merely structures but embodiments of their lives and memories. Murmurs swirled among them. How could this happen? What did we do to deserve this? The emotional toll weighed heavily on everyone. Mothers clutched their children tighter, while fathers exchanged anxious glances laden with uncertainty. With every whispered conversation around flickering porch lights came a familiar sense of loss, a loss not only of property, but also of peace and safety. This wasn't merely vandalism. It was oppression disguised as a cruel joke, a taunt from those posing as guardians while tearing apart family foundations. In that charged atmosphere filled with fear and violation, hope flickered dimly yet defiantly, for somewhere amidst the chaos lurked an unexpected ally who might rise against this encroaching darkness. A thought took root among neighbors. Perhaps they could reclaim not just their windows, but their very way of life if only they banded together before it was too late. After all, community was forged in adversity, and they would need every ounce of courage to weather this storm together. Amid the growing turmoil in Maplewood Springs, one figure loomed largely in the shadows, rarely seen but often spoken about: Selby the Sniper Harrington. With a reputation that danced on the edges of myth and reality, Selby was a former marksman who had once served in the military, renowned for his incredible accuracy and a demeanor that was as enigmatic as it was stoic. Neighbors often caught glimpses of him in his backyard, meticulously cleaning an array of firearms with the precision of a surgeon, but few knew much about him beyond that. Selby had moved to Maplewood Springs nearly a decade ago, seeking solace and normalcy after years spent in deployment overseas. His humble home sat at the far end of the street, surrounded by thick hedges and tall trees that provided ample cover from prying eyes. While many residents shared laughter at block parties and summer cookouts, Selby stood apart, reclusive yet watchful. The other homeowners sometimes whispered tales of his sharpshooting exploits, claiming he could hit a target from over half a mile away. Children spun wild stories about how he once rescued a stray cat from a tree using only a tranquilizer gun from his impressive collection. Despite the intrigue surrounding him, Selby had cultivated an air of mystery. He was known to venture into town rarely and preferred the company of his books and a well-crafted rifle. This choice kept him away from the neighborhood squabbles and drama, allowing him to remain an outsider looking in, a luxury that ultimately kept everyone at arm's length. Those who interacted with him reported conversations filled with insightful anecdotes peppered with witty remarks, but these encounters were few and far between. As the incidents of vandalism escalated throughout Maplewood Springs, whispers about Selby's talent reached fever pitch. A mix of admiration and trepidation surrounded him. Some residents regarded him as their potential savior, while others felt unease at having such an armed presence living so close. Would he choose to intervene or remain indifferent? As fear crept into homes following the attack on their windows, many began to gaze towards Selby's property, longing for reassurance or intervention. One evening after the chaos had erupted, Mrs. Johnson gathered her courage and approached Selby's home. With hesitant steps up his winding pathway, she knocked on his door, feeling both nervous and hopeful. When he answered, she could see the unassuming man behind inviting blue eyes, eyes that seemed to assess the situation with more understanding than she anticipated. That night was pivotal. Mrs. Johnson explained what had happened in the neighborhood while expressing her fears for her family's safety. To her surprise, Selby showed genuine concern and promised he'd keep an eye on things from his vantage point when night fell. "I've never been one to sit idly by while injustice occurs," he assured her quietly. In that moment, Mrs. Johnson felt something shift in the air. A storm brewed not just within their community, but against those who dared prey upon it. With news spreading amongst concerned neighbors, the notion of having Selby on their side sparked a flicker of hope that perhaps this enigmatic sniper neighbor held the key to reversing their spiral into chaos. As darkness settled once again over Maplewood Springs, anticipation simmered. A reckoning appeared imminent, turning fear into unity as they looked towards their unlikely ally. The following evening, as twilight wrapped Maplewood Springs in a cloak of uncertainty, the atmosphere was charged. Word spread quickly that Selby Harrington will be keeping watch tonight, prospect that filled hearts with both hope and trepidation. Residents gathered in clusters along the street, peering nervously towards Selby's home, where they could just make out the silhouette of him in his yard, preparing for the night ahead. As darkness settled deeper, The nervous chatter that had accompanied post-vandalism gatherings faded into an anxious silence. Just then, a group of shadowy figures appeared at the end of the street, their movements deliberate and menacing. It was them, the fake HOA officers, emboldened by their previous actions. With each step they took toward the homes, pulses quickened and breaths caught in throats. Mrs. Johnson was among those who witnessed this ominous advance. Clenching her fists, she felt a mix of fear and frustration bubbling inside her. Would Selby do anything? Would he stand up to these imposters? The moment hung heavy in the air as the tension mounted like a high-strung bow waiting for release. Then, without warning, Selby stepped forward from the shadows, his presence cutting through the tension like a knife. He emerged with an air of quiet confidence, clad in dark clothing that allowed him to blend seamlessly into the night. Through his scope, a powerful tool he had taken from his arsenal, he surveyed the approaching brawl with expert precision. Every detail, every movement was captured by his discerning eye. "Not tonight," he muttered under his breath, determination coursing through him like adrenaline. He made his way toward the edge of his yard and signaled to Mrs. Johnson and a few others who stood close by, urging them to retreat further into the safety of their homes. They obeyed instinctively. There was something comforting in Selby's unwavering assurance. As the fake officers drew closer, assuming their intimidation tactics would go unchecked yet again, Selby raised his voice, calm yet authoritative, calling out, "Enough!" The word echoed down the street, surprising both neighbors and intruders alike. The faux officers halted in their tracks, confusion transforming into disbelief as they spotted Selby standing resolute. An uneasy banter erupted among them as they attempted to regain composure before launching insults, but Selby stood firm, unwavering like a sentinel guarding a fortress. "I suggest you turn around," he commanded, voice steady as a bullet fired at its mark. "I've seen enough of your games. These people deserve peace in their own homes." Silence enveloped the street momentarily as uncertainty washed over the trespassers. Emboldened by Selby's presence and support, Mrs. Johnson stepped beside him without thinking. "We won't be intimidated any longer. You don't belong here," she shouted defiantly. The words ignited an unexpected surge of courage within others who joined her side in solidarity. Realizing they were now outnumbered, not merely by bodies but also by conviction, the fake officers visibly faltered. For all their bravado, facing someone like Selby made them acutely aware of their own vulnerability. The tension cracked like taut string. They hesitated before exchanging bewildered glances amongst themselves and retreated down the street into anonymity. As relief flooded over those watching from behind windows and porches, jubilation burst forth like fireworks as neighbors rallied together under the protective umbrella of their sniper neighbor. Fear slowly transformed into hope that night, the first step towards restoring their sanctuary amid chaos, with Selby's intervention acting as a beacon for what lay ahead, unity against oppression and strength against injustice. In the days following their victorious stand against the fake HOA officers, a palpable sense of empowerment blossomed in Maplewood Springs. Selby Harrington, having tasted the sweet victory alongside his neighbors, gathered them for a strategy meeting at his home, where a fresh sense of determination ignited discussions about how to confront their oppressors once and for all. The atmosphere buzzed with a mix of nervous anticipation and humor as the residents squeezed into Selby's modest living room. It was adorned with an eclectic collection of memorabilia from his military days, an environment that both intimidated and inspired them. Mrs. Johnson took it upon herself to break the ice, jokingly pointing at a particularly large rifle mounted on the wall. "Selby, is that your way of saying we should take aim next time?" The room erupted in laughter, and the tension began to ease. Selby leaned casually against a table laden with papers and drawings, his sharp eyes glinting with mischief. "I'm all for eliminating threats," he replied with a smirk, "but I think we might need a plan that doesn't involve actual bullets." The laughter faded, replaced by thoughtful nods as neighbors shifted into brainstorming mode. "We need to catch them off guard," suggested Mr. Thompson, who had been wrestling with anxiety since the vandalism, like staging a neighborhood meeting, one they can't just march into and ruin. "Perfect," Mrs. Johnson exclaimed. We can make it look like we're discussing community improvements. They'll think they're welcome until it's too late." Selby nodded appreciatively at their enthusiasm. "Good idea," he urged them on. "But let's add an element of surprise. We'll use walkie-talkies so everyone can stay connected from different vantage points." "What if we dressed up?" offered little Timmy, Mrs. Johnson's son, who couldn't help but grin at the thought of disguises. "Like superheroes or something. No one would see us coming." The adults burst into laughter again at the thought of donning capes to confront fake HOA officers, an absurdity that momentarily lightened their heavy hearts before grounding them back to their mission. With ideas flowing and spirits high, they mapped out how this neighborhood meeting would unfold, where each person should stand, and how to engage the imposters when they arrived under false pretenses. Selby relayed details about hiding places he had identified around his yard for strategic oversight during moments of confrontation. As they exchanged playful banter about potential costume themes, the weight of what they were preparing to face lessened for just a moment. It felt like childhood escapades transformed into something much more meaningful. They settled on dressing as various characters from classic literature. Mrs. Johnson volunteered to be Alice from Alice in Wonderland, while Mr. Thompson chuckled at calling himself the Mad Hatter. Before long, plans solidified. Each resident had an assigned role. Some would initiate friendly conversation, while others would take note of any suspicious behavior unfolding in real time. When this motley crew of community defenders stepped onto Selby's property as mock planners ready for discussion with the intruders, there would be no way those fake officers could bully them this time. As strategies solidified under Selby's watchful eye and occasional quip, determination radiated from Maplewood Springs homes. They were no longer just fearful residents waiting for havoc. They were warriors prepared to fight for their peace, all sparked by laughter mingled with resolve, and together they would reclaim not just their windows but their very sense of home once and for all. The day of the showdown dawned with a sense of anticipation hanging thick in the air. As residents of Maplewood Springs gathered in front of Selby Harrington's home, their nerves electrified by a mixture of excitement and anxiety. They wore their chosen disguises, classic literary characters, but beneath the playful costumes lay fierce determination. Armed with walkie-talkies and an unyielding resolve, they were ready to confront the fake HOA officers who had terrorized their community for far too long. As the sun began to set, casting an orange glow across the street, a familiar group of shadowy figures appeared at the end of the block. The fake officers swaggered down the pavement, confidence radiating from them as they approached what they assumed would be an easy target. They had no idea that this time they would meet resistance. Selby stood hidden behind a bush at the edge of his yard, eyes sharp like a hawk as he watched the imposters draw nearer. He raised his walkie-talkie to his lips, whispering instructions to his neighbors. "Remember your roles, stay calm, and let's keep it friendly until we need to show our strength." The disguised residents lined up in front of Selby's house, their hearts racing as they prepared for the confrontation. Mrs. Johnson, clad in her Alice costume, complete with a blue dress and white apron, was positioned at the forefront. The Mad Hatter, Mr. Thompson, stood beside her, ready with witty banter to disarm any tension. "Good evening," Mrs. Johnson called out cheerily when the fake officers were within earshot. "We're just having a little neighborhood meeting. Care to join us?" The tone was lighthearted, but there was an unmistakable edge beneath her words. The fake officers exchanged glances, momentarily caught off guard by this unexpected welcome. "What's this? A party?" One of them sneered, attempting to regain control of the situation. "Yes," Mr. Thompson chimed in with exaggerated enthusiasm, while gesturing dramatically towards Selby's yard. "We've decided that our neighborhood deserves better. And it starts right here." The absurdity of their costumes contrasted sharply with their serious intentions, a clever tactic that left their adversaries momentarily confused. As laughter bubbled among the residents, Selby stealthily adjusted his position for a better vantage point while keeping a watchful eye on both sides of the street. He could sense that uncertainty was creeping into the hearts of the fake officers. They were clearly unprepared for this level of community cohesion. But just as the imposters began to recover from their bewilderment and attempt intimidation tactics once again, threatening fines or vaguely referencing community rules. The residents stepped forward in unison, standing shoulder to shoulder in defiance. Enough! Selby's voice boomed suddenly from his concealed position, a voice filled with authority that brooked no argument. He emerged from behind the bush like a ghost rising from the shadows, weapon holstered yet imposing nonetheless. Seeing him brought a palpable shift in energy. What had once felt like a power play now felt precarious for those who had sought to intimidate. The fake officers faltered visibly when faced with Selby's unwavering gaze, their bravado crumbling under pressure. "Your reign ends here," he declared firmly. "You may have thought you could bully this community into submission, but you are sorely mistaken." A tense silence enveloped them as fear replaced arrogance on the faces of their opponents. With each passing second, it became clear. These impostors were no longer untouchable. They were cornered by unity and purpose. As murmurs spread among residents bolstered by Selby's presence, as if emboldened by an unseen force, the fake HOA officers realized they were outmatched not just by numbers but by conviction and courage. They exchanged frantic glances before stumbling backward into retreat. Their intimidation tactics had backfired spectacularly against resolute homeowners willing to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. Cheers erupted from those assembled as victory filled their hearts, a culmination not only of this confrontation, but also an unwavering commitment to protect their community. They had transformed from fearful victims into empowered warriors ready to stand together against injustice, and today marked merely the beginning of reclaiming their peace and safety once more in Maplewood Springs. In the aftermath of the dramatic confrontation, Maplewood Springs began to feel the ripples of change that swept through its streets. The fake HOA officers, once brimming with arrogance, now found themselves on the defensive. Word spread quickly about their retreat. Disgraced and discredited, they became the subject of scorn and ridicule among neighbors who had witnessed their failure. With their authority stripped away, they vanished into obscurity, leaving behind a community more united than ever before. The residents didn't merely celebrate their victory, they transformed it into a catalyst for revitalization. In the days following the showdown, discussions flourished about how to rebuild trust and ensure that such intimidation could never happen again. The laughter that echoed through Maplewood Springs once more was a melody of resilience, as families gathered in backyards and children played freely without fear. Selby Harrington emerged as an unlikely hero in this narrative, his quiet demeanor now infused with newfound respect from his neighbors. They often sought his counsel during community meetings, eager to involve him in decisions shaping their future. His insights on security and vigilance became invaluable as residents banded together to strengthen neighborhood watch programs and establish clear communication channels to report any suspicious activity. The sense of empowerment was palpable. Individuals who had once felt intimidated began voicing their opinions confidently at gatherings. Mrs. Johnson spearheaded initiatives aimed at fostering neighborly relationships, organizing potluck dinners where everyone brought a dish and shared stories. The initial fear that had marred their interactions faded away like mist under the sun, replaced by an atmosphere of camaraderie and support. However, it wasn't just the residents who felt the impact of this transformation. The very fabric of Maplewood Springs was being rewoven. No longer were there fearful whispers behind closed doors. Instead, there were open conversations about community values and collective strength. This newfound unity brought forth plans for improvements around town, from beautifying public spaces to enhancing safety measures that would protect against future threats. As weeks turned into months, it became clear that the fake HOA officers' actions had inadvertently forged something beautiful from chaos. Residents took pride in their homes, not just as places to live, but as part of a larger community where every voice mattered. The idea of standing up against injustice had become ingrained in their identities, a mantra echoing through block parties and casual chats over fences. Yet while they celebrated their victory, Selby remained vigilant, ever watchful for signs of trouble lurking beyond the horizon. He frequently reminded his neighbors that maintaining vigilance was crucial in keeping their hard-won peace intact. "Unity is our greatest weapon," he often said with a knowing smile as he surveyed the neighborhood from afar. As autumn leaves began to fall gently onto sidewalks lined with children's drawings and laughter-filled yards, Maplewood Springs stood transformed, a testament to resilience born from adversity. The fake HOA officers may have thought they could instill fear and dominate with bravado, but they had underestimated a community's capacity for solidarity and healing. In moments of quiet reflection amidst bustling gatherings or crisp evening strolls past twinkling porch lights, residents knew they would never allow themselves to be victims again. They had emerged stronger together, each day reaffirming their commitment to stand united against any force that threatened their beloved home. As weeks turned into months following the confrontation with the fake HOA officers, the emotional landscape of Maplewood Springs shifted dramatically. The scars of past fears began to heal, and what once felt like a fractured community evolved into a robust network of support and solidarity. Each resident embarked on their own journey of reflection, grappling with the vulnerabilities they had faced but ultimately emerging with a renewed sense of purpose. Selby Harrington found himself at the center of this transformation, yet he remained humble about his role. The reclusive sniper had opened his heart and home to the community, sharing not just his expertise and security, but also stories from his past that resonated deeply with those around him. Neighbors gathered in his backyard under twinkling lights woven through trees, their laughter mingling with stories that revealed fears once hidden away. It was here, beneath the stars, that they learned healing often begins with vulnerability. Mrs. Johnson often led these gatherings, transforming her initial fear into strength as she shared her experiences and invited others to do the same. "We've all been scared," she would say with a warm smile, "but together we are stronger." Her infectious optimism inspired others to open up about their own struggles during those harrowing weeks of intimidation. Neighbors who had once whispered behind closed doors now spoke candidly about their fears, allowing them to shed the weight that had held them captive for too long. The community's emotional journey shifted from one of fear to empowerment. It was as if they had collectively decided that silence would no longer define them. They initiated regular neighborhood meetings where everyone's voice mattered, a safe space where ideas flourished and concerns were addressed openly. Together, they established a vibrant neighborhood watch program that not only increased security, but also fostered deeper bonds among residents as they took turns patrolling their streets and looking out for one another. As the seasons changed and autumn leaves gave way to winter snow, an undeniable warmth enveloped Maplewood Springs. Families began decorating their homes together for holidays, hosting block parties filled with food, music, and laughter, a stark contrast to the tension that had once marred their lives. Children ran freely between yards, forging friendships against a backdrop of harmony nurtured by those who had chosen unity over fear. Selby, too, found solace in this revitalized community life. He became a mentor figure for some of the children eager to learn about safety and responsibility while embodying traits of strength without aggression. Selby's quiet presence in these moments, his easy smile and gentle guidance, helped foster respect among younger generations toward both him and their neighbors. In moments of quiet reflection during winter evenings spent beside crackling fireplaces or sipping warm cocoa on porches adorned with twinkling lights, residents often thought back on how far they had come since those fearful days dominated by imposters. The lessons learned were imprinted in their hearts. Resilience was born from unity, courage could be found in vulnerability, and community was not just a place, it was each other. Together, they forged a promise never to let fear dictate their actions again or allow outsiders to impose upon their sanctuary. Maplewood Springs stood transformed, no longer defined by intimidation, but instead celebrated as a vibrant tapestry woven from shared experiences, their bond a testament to survival and hope triumphant over despair. As spring approached once again, flowers began to bloom alongside newfound friendships. Every petal represented trust rekindled within this remarkable community that rose from adversity resolute, and together they smiled at what lay ahead, a future grounded in strength and love for one another. The journey through adversity in Maplewood Springs has illuminated several key lessons that resonate deeply within the hearts of its residents. The experience of confronting the fake HOA officers taught them that vigilance is not just a passive state of being. It is an active commitment to safeguarding their community and its values. By remaining alert and aware, they learned that ignoring the signs of wrongdoing can allow fear to fester and grow. but taking action together can extinguish that fear and restore safety. Through their unity, residents discovered the immense power of community support. No longer isolated in their struggles, they realized that sharing their thoughts and feelings could transform individual vulnerabilities into collective strength. It became clear that when neighbors stand shoulder to shoulder, they create an indomitable force capable of overcoming even the most daunting challenges. This newfound solidarity turned what was once a fractured community into a vibrant tapestry of connections, where every person felt seen, heard, and valued. Selby Harrington emerged as a figure who embodied this spirit of empowerment. Through his guidance, the residents learned more than just practical skills for defending their homes. They also gleaned invaluable lessons about resilience and trust. His humility served as a reminder that strength often lies quiet beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to rise. Selby's role as both protector and mentor illustrated how leadership can manifest in unexpected ways, emphasizing that everyone has something meaningful to contribute to the greater good. Another important lesson learned was the significance of standing up against wrongdoing. Residents found courage within themselves that they had not known existed, a courage rooted in their shared experiences. Their successful confrontation with the imposters ignited a passion for justice that would not easily be extinguished. They understood that standing up didn't just protect their homes, but also affirmed their right to live peacefully in a place they cherished. As one neighbor remarked during a gathering, "We may have started as victims, but now we are advocates for our community." The emotional scars left by vandalism ultimately transformed into badges of honor as residents banded together to reclaim their sense of belonging. Celebrations were held regularly in lieu of fear. Laughter filled the air during community potlucks, block parties, and festive gatherings around shared holidays. The neighborhood evolved into a space where joy and resilience flourished hand in hand, elevating spirits and reinforcing bonds among families who were once at odds. As spring broke open like a blooming flower, the houses adorned with fresh blossoms mirrored the renewed spirit within each resident. The promise made to maintain vigilance over their collective well-being became a guiding principle, a mantra echoed in conversations and plans made for enhancing communal spaces, improving safety measures, and further encouraging connectivity among neighbors. In closing this chapter of Maplewood Springs' story, it is crucial to reflect upon these lessons that now define its identity. Unwavering vigilance against threats, the strength found in unified support, and an unyielding commitment to confront injustice wherever it arises. Each day presents opportunities to honor these lessons, opportunities to continue building trust and solidarity within their cherished community. Ultimately, Maplewood Springs stands not only as a testament to triumph over fear, but as an inspiring beacon for others facing similar challenges. It is possible to reclaim peace when hearts unite with purpose, courage thrives amidst adversity, and communal bonds become unbreakable threads woven together in resilience and love. As they forge ahead into tomorrow, every resident carries forward this powerful legacy, knowing that together they are more than just neighbors. They are family committed to nurturing a sanctuary of hope for future generations.